What's up guys, Sodor Railway Studios here, and welcome to another video. You may know that I've done a series where I review the voices of characters from Sonic, so I decided, why not do the same thing with Thomas? Except this time, I'm going to be ranking the voices from worst to best, in the same way that Thomas Fan 261 did. And who better to start with than with Thomas the Tank Engine himself? When it comes to Thomas's voice, there are a few things you have to get right. You need to sound youthful and cheeky, but also have energy and sound natural. There are 6 voice actors for me to rank today, so let's see if they did any of that. But before we start, please remember that this is entirely my opinion, so if you disagree with any of my thoughts, then that's fine. So without further ado, let's get started. Coming in at last place is Martin Sherman.
Hello, I hope you don't mind me asking, but what kind of an inspector are you? Oh, a bird watcher! Of course. And all I had to do to find out was ask him.
Now, I'm not saying that Martin Sherman is a bad voice actor, far from it. But I just don't really like his take on Thomas. I don't want to call him terrible, but he's just not very good. I don't know if it was the voice direction or if he was blatantly phoning it in, but he has nowhere near as much energy as his UK counterpart, Ben Small. Now, I do think Martin got somewhat better over time, as I thought he was pretty good in Tale of the Brave in Season 18. But apart from that, he just wasn't good at all in my opinion. Without a doubt the worst voice for Thomas for me. Coming in at number 5 is John Bellis.
Sodor Railway. Really reliable and right on time. And you're being bossy, Gordon. Now, please excuse me. I'm meeting Mr. Conductor. He's taking care of us while Sir Topham Hatt takes a very important holiday.
I know this has been said about John Bellis's Thomas already, but I have to say it here because it's too true. He's too old. If anything, he sounds more like a narrator for the show than anything else. Upon my most recent listening to John's Thomas voice, I realised he sounds somewhat similar to Ringo Starr in a way, but I may be over-exaggerating. No offence to him, or Britt Allcroft for that matter, but I agree with the test audiences that John made Thomas sound way too old. And people say Roger Craig Smith's Sonic voice sounds too deep, which I can sort of understand in the context of Sonic Frontiers, but still. I'm sure John Bellis is a lovely guy, but in terms of his Thomas voice, he's really not for me. Up next at number 4 is Joseph May.
Hello, Donald! Where's Douglas? Did you see that? Donald's got the number 9 tender, and the number 10. Donald! Do you know you're pulling 2 tenders?
Joseph May is probably the voice I have the least to say about because he's quite literally just there for me. He does sound genuinely cheeky, and I thought he was amazing in Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure. But for some reason, as Thomas Fan 261 said in his ranking, I feel like he just gave up after Journey Beyond Sodor. That may sound a bit harsh, but I've never been a huge fan of Joseph's take on Thomas for this reason. There's also the fact that Thomas having an American accent doesn't work for very obvious reasons. It's different for the model series because back then the narrator voiced everyone, and I mean everyone, so it didn't really matter. Though honestly, if it was me choosing a US voice for Thomas, then I'd probably pick Jason Griffith, the voice actor of Sonic from 2003 to 2010. See what you think.
Well, this is new. Showing remorse, Eggman? If you played nice, I wouldn't have to break all your toys.
But overall, Joseph May is the definition of an average Thomas voice in my opinion. Not bad, not great, just there. Now entering the top 3, next up is Ben Small.
Oh dear, Gordon. I see you've got stuck on your hill again. Red trousers? Danger signal! You're not moving very quickly yourself, Gordon.
I know some people aren't too fond of Ben Small's take on Thomas, but I love it personally. Sure, he wasn't great in the Nitrogen era, but that's mostly the writer's fault, not his. In the Brenner era, on the other hand, Ben's performance is just amazing in my opinion, almost as good as it was in Hero of the Rails. In a nutshell, Ben Small is the exact opposite of Martin Sherman, since not only does he sound natural, but when the time calls for energy, he delivers. Though I personally think Rheneas is his best performance in the show by far, I honestly wouldn't have minded if he stayed being the UK voice of Thomas. He's that good. Just missing out on the top spot is Eddie Glenn.
Sodor Railway. Really reliable and right on time. Signed, Head of the Railway, Sir Topham Hatt. And you're being bossy, Gordon. Now, please excuse me. I'm meeting Mr. Conductor. He's looking after us while Sir Topham Hatt takes a much-needed holiday.
I know some people may not like Eddie Glenn as Thomas that much since they think he sounds too high-pitched, but I can't help but love his take. For one thing, despite being Canadian, he does a really convincing English accent. As a kid, I never would have guessed he was Canadian because he sounds that good. Seriously, Neil Crone was right when he said in an interview with the Ouch Films that Eddie was very talented. Eddie's youthful energy fits perfectly with Thomas's character, and he sounds so natural in his performance. Remember Ryan Drummond voicing Sonic in Sonic Adventures 1 and 2? Well, Eddie Glenn is the Ryan Drummond of Thomas. And as much as I don't like All Engines Go, I do like how he returned to the cast in that, and is now the US voice for Toby. Honestly, if not for my #1 pick, I think Eddie Glenn could have been my favourite Thomas voice. I may not like Magic Railroad too much, but Eddie Glenn is one of the best parts about it. Finally, coming in at #1 is John Hasler.
Look, Edward, look! I'm blue, just like you! We mustn't give up! We have to try! Sorry, sir, but this is an emergency! Wake up, lazy bones! Really useful engine coming through!
I don't care what anyone says, John Hasler is Thomas to me. He is literally everything I could ask for when it comes to Thomas's voice. He's youthful, cheeky, energetic, and best of all, he's the most natural sounding in my opinion. Yes, even more than Eddie Glenn. I'm honestly amazed at John Hasler's vocal talent. No wonder he also voices James and Arnold in the CGI series of Fireman Sam. And my god, John Hasler kills it at singing. Whenever I hear John sing in a movie, I am always amazed. He's seriously almost as good as Ringo Starr. While I find his Rheneas voice to be a bit off because it doesn't sound quite the same as Ben Small, John Hasler is without a doubt the best Thomas voice in my opinion, and I don't think that opinion's ever going to change. And that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed, and feel free to let me know in the comments which voice for Thomas is your favourite. Also, huge shout out to ThomasFan261 for inspiring me to do this. I'll definitely make more of these, so expect an episode on Percy to be coming out sooner down the lane. Until then, I've been Sodor Railway Studios, you've been simply the best, and have a great day. Bye!
If you need help with a situation, who comes into mind? He's the one. He's the one. He's the really useful engine that we adore. He's the one. He's the number